Hey there, it's Mackenzie, your host of Winning. We're looking for sponsors for the podcast. If you have a business that you would like to promote to thousands of people, send us an email at podcastwinning@gmail.com or send us a message on social media. I cannot wait to hear from you. Now on to the show.
Winning is your guide to making it in business. Join our award-winning host and entrepreneur, Mackenzie Kilshaw, and special guests in casual conversations that will educate and inspire you on your business journey. Winning will help you learn the hard lessons the easy way with guidance from celebrated entrepreneurs and business leaders. It's fun. It's informative. It's winning.
Hello, I am Mackenzie Kilshaw, and I am your host of Winning. And today's guest is Eric Dillon. He is the president of the General Bank of Canada. Hi, Eric.
Hey, Matt. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, you too. So I've known Eric for a few years. We actually serve on the board of directors of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So I've gotten to know... Go Riders. Yeah, exactly. Gotten to know Eric pretty well. Eric is a financial expert. So today is all about finances and how you can set yourself up for success. He is an executive. He's shaped the business model of small financial institutions in Canada. He's a serial innovator, which I love. He's been involved in innovations such as community-based venture capital, business incubation and entrepreneurship, social impact financing, measuring financial wellness, and building next generation payment platforms, which that sounds like a mouthful. But I know it's all stuff that is really helping small businesses thrive. And that is fantastic. He's got graduate degrees in business, industry education. He is being recognized nationally, which I want to talk about this. He actually just was the recipient of the Saskatchewan Chamber of Commerce Community Business Leader of the Year award just this year in 2022. So congrats on that. He's also been the recipient of the Governor General of Canada Innovation Award, the Forrester Groundswell Award winner, as the National Young Leader Award too. So I can't even tell you all the list of things. He's mentored businesses. He's been a presenter on business strategy, leadership, innovation. Eric, you're a pro at finance. That's all I have to say.
I've been doing it for a really long time, Mac. That's all that means.
I love it though, because, it's so important. If you are not on top of and don't understand your finances and you are an entrepreneur or a small business owner, you're doomed, right?
You're doomed. Yeah. And I've been doing this for a really long time and trying to find creative ways. We always call money as like the jet fuel for businesses.
Yep.
And if you're going to put jet fuel in, but the rocket doesn't know where it's going or how it's going to lift off or what direction or how many degrees, or that it's actually going to the moon and not Mars, it doesn't matter how much jet fuel you have. It's not going to be successful.
I love that analogy. And I think from all of the people that I talk to and all of the social media messages and everything, I can say that finances are the one thing that people are intimidated by, scared of, don't understand, right? And then it is really scary. It's kind of a daunting, scary thing when you don't really get it.
It's getting worse in Canada is the really crappy part, is that Canadians and their level of comfort and confidence when it comes to dealing with money is getting worse, not better. And I don't think that bodes well for building better businesses, better communities, better government, better leaders. It's the language of business. I mean, like it or not, finance is the language of business. And if you don't understand how it works, it's going to be really, really hard to succeed. And again, I don't care whether you're a mayor, an MLA, the premier, a business owner, working for government, it matters.
Yeah, 100%. And it's one of those things where if you fall behind on something, it's really hard to get caught up. I was talking to and kind of mentoring a new entrepreneur, and she was asking me about taxes, like so I collect the tax and then I have to pay it. And I said, yeah. And she's like, and what if I don't pay it? I'm like, you're in big trouble. You need to pay it, right? It's easy to kind of slough that off or forget about it, but that's going to come back really to bite you in the butt. So
and I hate to say this, but it's kind of like the healthy habits we need, whether it's eating, or exercise. If you're running a business, you need healthy habits around finance, which means regularly reviewing information, understanding what the metrics are. It's just you need really healthy finance hygiene. And I know it's like people dread getting up and going to the gym when it's minus 100 outside and all those things, but it's the same thing. You dread actually compiling your financial information and looking at the key metrics. Healthy habits mean healthy businesses, and there's just no easy shortcut way around it.
I love that. But I think if you start out doing that and it, like you say, it's a habit or part of your routine, it's not so daunting.
Bingo. Yeah. And it actually unlocks opportunities and possibilities that I think you might not have seen had you not just taken a step back, stopped, talking to the customer on the phone and just said, how's my business doing? What is the cost to acquire a customer? What's the lifetime value of a customer? What are my margins today? What will it afford the opportunity to do? So then if an expansion opportunity comes up, or there's an opportunity to maybe buy an adjacent business or something, you would have the information to be able to seize quickly on whatever that opportunity is. Or the other side of the coin is, if there are risks coming or storm clouds on the horizon, you'll be much better able to react and deal and pivot based on what's happening in the world if you have information at your fingertips.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I call it the C word, but COVID. I mean, if that didn't teach you about things happening that popped up, we'll say. I mean, when I had to close my doors for COVID, we were mandated to close. That was the scariest financial spot I've ever been in, because when I first started my business, I had forecasts, but I didn't really know, right? I didn't really know how much money I was going to make. I knew what my costs were all going to be. But you kind of figure that out as you go. Where COVID, I knew exactly that I had to pay a lease and I had to pay staff, and I wasn't open for business. So times like that, if you're not prepared, it's going to be a very hard time for you.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give you a real life example. So of course, I haven't always been at General Bank. I used to work at Connexus as the CEO. And March 17th was the day that, of course, our world's changed in 2020. And banking is what's considered an essential service, even in a pandemic. So we had to stay open. But obviously, we had to do a whole bunch of things differently for people that needed to access the branch. But I could tell you on March 17th, of the 400,000 people we'd done business with, I could tell you which ones used a branch, how often they used a branch, what days of the week they used a branch. And of course, we started on March 18th, just reaching out to those people saying, hey, guess what? You're living the same world we're living, which is really, weird right now. But we know you generally come in and you do these kinds of transactions. Let us help you figure out how to do these things differently. And I think people were like, holy cow, they know me so well. But it's because we had healthy hygiene and we knew exactly what our customers were doing and when and why, and then we could help them much easier 24 hours after what was a very big crisis.
That's amazing. And especially when you're dealing with so many people, right? It's having that data was invaluable to you.
Yeah, but it's all just metrics, finance, numbers, and having that available so that leaders can use it to make very quick decisions. It's absolutely a competitive advantage. And, I've probably seen or financed 30,000 businesses in my career. And it's a very small percentage of small business that has, I would say, exceptionally great habits at that, because it's always maybe the last thing to do, or it's not the skill set of the founder, but it needs to be kind of core capability of the business. And I don't care if you're running, a boutique like you were, Mac, or you're running, Sask Energy. It's the same.
Exactly. It's the same. Yeah. Well, I find through the years and through talking with so many people now that every business faces the same problem. They're just at slightly different magnitudes, right? But the problems are all the same.
Yeah. Everybody talks about, well, it's way more complex. Connexus was one of Saskatchewan's 100th biggest businesses. And we had lots of customers, but it's just zeros.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
At the end of the day, it's
adding
just
on to the end. Yeah. And for small business, I think when you're talking about data, one of the things that really can help you out is your POS system, right? Because you can track so many things. I use Shopify in my store, but the report, I'm sure I'd never even pulled every report I could ever pull because there were so many. It was so robust, but that's great because you have that data at your fingertips if you need it in a moment's notice. that you can just pull that, right?
I started in banking, I don't know, it would have been like mid-90s, so I'm really old. But, it's funny now to stand up a small business today that's doing, selling in real time in the market. It is so much easier today than it was, I would argue, back then because of technology. Like to stand up on a Shopify platform to do foreign exchange things, to ship things around the world. Like, can you imagine doing that back in 2000 or something? Like, it just wouldn't have been possible.
No, and I just think like paper receipts and things like that. Like it would literally be hours and hours and hours of work to figure that stuff out. Where now it's a click.
It's a click, and it's like all baked in, and it's way cheaper now. The technology is way cheaper now than it would have been even 5 or 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, Shopify's $29 a month. I mean,
if
seriously.
I started a business in Saskatchewan in the last 30 years, I'd want to be doing it right now.
Yeah, I love that because I feel like after COVID, people were nervous to start new because of the unknowns. But I love to hear that it's a favorable environment. That's awesome.
I think that. I also think that for, young people coming out of school today, I think entrepreneurship is considered as a viable career choice where, again, like 20 or 30 years ago, if you were an entrepreneur, you're one of those crazy, people dreaming about the future and,
never going to work out
5 times. But now it's like people build skills to come out of school and things as kind of entrepreneurs ready to build businesses. And I think it bodes really well for kind of the future of Saskatchewan and the growth of the economy.
I agree. I graduated from high school over 20 years ago. We'll just start there. But when I graduated, you did 2 things. You got a job or you went to secondary, so university or a trade. That was it.
Yep.
If I would have said, I'm going to start a business, people would have laughed at me and been like, oh, good luck.
The university and trades tried to set you up for these 30 and 40-year careers in the same job, working for the same company.
Yes.
And you went from like contributor to manager and manager to, leader and leader to exec. Like that just doesn't exist anymore.
No, most people, I think I read now, the average is about 7 times that you change your career or position, whatever it is. And it's not usually within the same company anymore. That's kind of old school.
I posted a job the other day, and I've talked to a whole bunch of people who are, maybe interested in applying or considering it. And like, I talked to a guy, he was in Costa Rica and he just spent 5 years having a little sabbatical on the beach. And I talked to somebody else who left the industry and went and did something completely different. And now they're like, yeah, I think I actually want to come back to finance and banking. And it's just remarkable to me because that didn't exist 10 years ago.
No, exactly. You would never left, right?
But they come back with very different, and I would say much more diverse experiences, much better equipped to deal with kind of the ambiguity and the VUCA world we always talk about that exists today, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, much better equipped to deal with those things because they've had these rich and diverse life experiences, which I think it's a wonderful thing.
Oh, for sure. And especially now when our businesses are international. Like if you're an online business or you have a website, anyone in the world can see that. So if you've had some life experiences in different parts of the world, or you've traveled, or you've seen those things, you can understand them better, right? Which is only going to help you.
The world is a global place these days.
Yeah, it is. Everywhere. It doesn't matter what your business is. People listening to the podcast. I've got people all over the world listening. And it just kind of astounds me because I think that is incredible. But at the end of the day, business advice and what we're doing here is for everyone. Right? It's not just people within our country.
Mackenzie, I got caught on the big screen at an Oilers hockey game here on one of these like funny mimic things. And I heard from people in 7 countries within 24 hours.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It was bananas.
Yeah. But awesome, right? The world's shrinking.
The world's exactly. A small place.
So Eric, you've been in finance. Have you been in finance for your whole career?
Yeah, basically. Like I've been mucking around for 30 years and like 29 of it's been in banking.
Okay. So did you always dream of that? Like when you were a young kid, were you like, I'm going to be a banker? Or how did this happen? Where did you start?
Oh my God. So first of all, my dad was a pilot.
That's a cool job.
And so when I grew up, I wanted to be a pilot because I thought this is the coolest job ever because the thing that everybody else in the world pays to do, i.e. fly somewhere, you get paid to do it. And I was like, it's the greatest scam of all time. You fly to all these places, you hang out there, and then you fly home.
Yeah, and you get paid.
That was my first. Then the second was I went to university. I started as a chemistry major. Okay. I know, right? What's the bank doing in
Can't
chemistry?
see my face, but I did a what?
I know. Then about a year and a half into that, I'm like, this is ridiculous. I don't actually like chemistry. And I took an elective in university, and the elective was money and banking. And it was a single course, and I got the top mark in the class, and I was just fascinated by this idea about how money and the economy are like totally connected. And then I ended up changing streams in university and getting educated in math and economics as opposed to chemistry. And here I am 30 years later. But this idea of money and the role it has in people's lives, both the emotion of money, how it becomes the jet fuel for business, it fascinates me to no end, which is why, this idea of financial well-being was at the root of some research I did in some stuff I did a few years ago in my career. And it was, not something that was widely studied or thought about in banking at the time. But yeah, this connection to money and what it enables for people's lives, it still fascinates me to this day.
Yeah. And I like how you touched on the emotional aspect of it, because I think that so many people really tie emotions to money where it shouldn't be, right? It's a way to transact things, but that emotional aspect is huge.
And it drives the behavior of people with money way more than the rational, hey, this just enables this transaction. The emotion around money drives, I would argue, like 75% of the outcomes.
Yeah.
Positive or negative. Whether
Yes.
that's impulse buying, whether that's saving, whether that's fueling the next, growth phase of their business, whatever it is, that emotion piece. And, when I'm talking and coaching friends on money, because when you're a president of a Schedule I bank in Canada, you get a few phone calls from buddies saying, hey, can you help me with this thing?
Yeah, what do I do?
And the first question I generally ask people is like, what's your relationship with money? Like emotionally, what's your relationship with money? Just tell me what that means to you. And you get at the root of some of these things that I think are holding people back.
A huge thank you to our sponsor, Just For You Day Spa and Wellness. Just For You is Canada's premier day spa with 5 locations in Alberta and Saskatchewan. The award-winning luxury spa features Leah Reese cosmetics and iconic Betty jewelry that you can also purchase online. Visit www.justforyoudayspa.com to book your service or to purchase a gift card. Yeah, that's so true. And I know for me, it's crazy, but spending money brings me joy, which is like a crazy thought, but I think it is for a lot of people. Like the thought of going shopping and buying something makes me happy. And I think that's kind of a scary thought, because it's not the only thing that makes me happy, but that really shouldn't make you happy, but it does. And I don't know when I learned that, probably as a kid, went shopping with my mom or something and but then I equated that to the thing, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And I would say your experience is not uncommon.
Yeah. What really shocks me is people that set the price of their product, or worse yet to me, give discounts based on emotion and not data or facts. And I think that's a huge thing that happens, especially in industry service, like hair salons and things like that, where, well, this person has been my customer for 30 years, so I need to give them a discount, right? And that's just pure emotion.
Well, totally it is. And this connection to the perception of value.
Yep.
And I think small business owners are pretty quick to discount the value they offer without actually understanding what the consumer's understanding of value is with respect to the good or service that they're buying from the small business owner. And I think you're right. I think they end up shortchanging themselves more often than not.
Yeah, I agree. And when I had my clothing store, I gave my family and my close friends a discount, because I thought, well, I don't really need to make money off of my sister-in-law, right? But then you always had those people that asked you for a discount. They'll say like, oh, is there anything you can do for me today or something? And I always found that really hard, because you kind of felt like you had to give the discount. Like it was hard to say no. But then afterwards I thought, why am I giving them a discount? Like this is a product or a service. It's a good, it has a value to it. And for me as a small business owner, the profit that I made paid for my lease and my staff and my house, like my own. So it kind of was on the flip side of that. The people that asked for it should also be the people that want to support you, right? And not take that discount. So it kind of is a crazy circle that you can go around. But now my own thought is I never asked for a discount because the price of that product was set so that the person can pay their expenses and then make the profit for their own living, right? So to me, I'm opposite now. I never asked for a discount.
Well, I think there's two really important lessons there for small business people. One is understand what your value is. Is it, custom offering? Is it the service aspect? Is it price? And if it's price, be prepared to compete on that, and you're going to have to be the most efficient possible. Yep. But I was at a leadership training session once, and one of the original founders from WestJet was there. And this was when WestJet started, and they were what you call a discount airline. And he said they used to get calls from people saying, why don't you have like a points program? And why don't you have business class? And why don't you serve me the same stuff that Air Canada does? And he says, you know what our response to those complaints would be? We would write them a letter, and the letter would be one sentence. And the sentence was, we'll miss you.
Yeah,
and what he was saying is, it's not in your interest or ours to try to continue to make you happy for something we have no intention of actually delivering. You're going to be frustrated for a very long time. What you should do if you value those things is actually go to Air Canada.
Yep,
if you value price and getting there quickly, which is what they did at the time, then yes, we'll do our damnedest to meet your needs. But if it's these other things that you want, you need to leave, because it's going to be inefficient for us to try to solve those things for you, and you're just going to be really frustrated.
Oh, exactly.
I thought it was the most polite way of saying, this is what our business stands for. And if you don't want those things, that's okay. Go get them somewhere else.
Yeah. And not every customer is for you. It's okay. I don't want to say fire them, but it's okay to not have a relationship with certain customers, because you're right. They'll never be happy.
You're giving value to, and go after those people like with all the energy in the world. But, there are other people that you should spend less time worried about.
Exactly. Kind of the 80-20 rule, right?
100%.
Yeah. So 80-20 rule, if you're not familiar with that, just kind of the easiest way to say it is that 20% of people are going to bring you 80% of your business. So focus on those 20, because the other is great, but that's not your target market. And we have a whole episode of marketing, which talks about your target market. Who are they? And those are the people that you really need to be focusing on.
Yeah, go find more of those people that look like the 20 and sell more to them.
Exactly. Did you have a major turning point in your career? I mean, you've helped so many people and you've been innovative. Like, was that innovation a turning point for you, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think if, back to the story about chemistry and, all that stuff, I've always loved building things. And it's why I, have taken the role I took here at General Bank in the last 7 months, because it's a fairly new bank and they want to build things. And that was pretty exciting for me. Yep. So I've always wanted to build stuff and had this kind of weird curiosity about how things work and why. So I don't think that's new. I figured that out. But the idea of leading people, when I worked at Connexus, there was 1,000 people. And so it was a big organization. But my first job leading people at Mac, I was terrible. I was the worst leader ever. And I remember sitting at Christmas with my dad going, this sucks. Like, I actually hate being a manager. It's no fun. The people are a pain in the ass. I'm not enjoying it. I need to do something else. And then he said something profound to me, and we still laugh about it to this day. It's like, it's not about you, right, stupid? That's what he said. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, no, it's about serving those people.
Yeah.
And you need to figure out what's different and unique and what motivates them and what rewards they appreciate and how they want to be served. And then if you have a team of 8, you're going to have to figure out how to serve those 8 people uniquely. And if you don't figure that out, you're going to suck at this for a very long time.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that was the turning point for me when I'm like, oh my God, this is actually about me. I just have different customers. I used to have the customer that bought stuff at the bank. Now my customer is the people that work at the bank. And that was like a bright light moment for me when I'm like, oh my God, I just have different customers now and I have to figure out how to serve the customer.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can understand them, right, then it just makes all the difference. That's leadership.
It was this like mental mind shift for me that unlocked a whole bunch of possibilities. So then when I figured out, okay, well, how could I serve the customer better? Then I started having much more success. And then, lo and behold, you end up as the CEO of 1,000-person company.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you built your way up, which is amazing. And leadership, I mean, I need to have a whole episode itself on leadership because when I opened my business, right before my job, before I had the business, I had I'll just say terrible, terrible manager, very much in it for herself, as you just said, right? And would take ownership of your ideas and present them as her own and things like that, that were just like, I couldn't believe someone would do that. So when I started my business, it was, I'm going to be the exact opposite of her. And I'm going to do things with my employees first and foremost so that they're happy, because a happy employee is much easier to have a better business, right?
But here's the challenge, and I speak about leadership way more than I speak about finance. There's no actual training around building leaders. Like everybody's in my business, you're taught how to be a great mortgage advisor, how to get CMHC insurance, how to qualify people, how to help them find the right house, how to make sure it's financed to fit their lifestyle and their income. You're taught all those technical things, but I don't care whether it's banking or entrepreneur. We don't teach people what does it mean to be a great leader, and when should I start thinking about those things in terms of how do I lead myself, how do I lead a small group of people, how do I lead a company. That training, it didn't exist when I was in the business, and I just started learning about it and became like kind of really interested in, okay, how can I serve the customer, to that chat we had a minute ago.
Yep.
And then I just started to read piles about it, and then I basically had taught myself over 20 years. And then I would try things and, some things work, some other things didn't work that great. But this idea of the skills needed to lead people are very different than the technical skills that you need in a finance or banking. It's just a foreign concept, I think. And it's just, there's something just patently wrong about the way we build people up for success.
Yeah. And I think too, it starts too at the beginning when you're developing your business, or especially if we're talking to new entrepreneurs here, it's having a mission statement and what are your values? And then everything you do should go back to those, right?
100%.
Leading by inspiring people and, maybe getting their opinions. Like there's so many, I mean, this is a whole episode on its own, but there's so many ways to be a good leader without being the boss, I'll say, because that's another thing I think people get stuck on, right? They're like, well, I'm the boss, so you got to do what I say. Well, that doesn't usually go over well either.
Yeah, you can do that once or twice.
Yeah.
Get away with it. But if you're relying on that every time, you're going to be a difficult spot to succeed. Because the thing about leadership is you get results in and through others. And so inspiring those people to get great results that you're the leader of the business of, that's the key. You can pound the desk all you want, and they might do it once, but getting them to do it for a 10 or 15 or 20 year period, like good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly.
All of these ideas about kind of vision and values, and like I would argue that's all encompassed today in what's called purpose. What is your personal purpose, or what's your business purpose? What is it you seek to do? And how are you going to change the life of a colleague or a customer or the world? If it's a really big business like Amazon or the things Musk is doing, like he's trying to change the world on a lot of fronts. But like, what's your purpose? And I think as leaders, we should ask ourselves individually that question more often.
100%. And if you don't know what it is, you're doomed. As we talked about finances at the beginning, right? Why are you doing what you're doing? What drives you? What problem are you trying to solve, or what solution are you trying to bring? What is it that gets you every day to your business, right?
And here's what I look at. So I've been financing businesses for 30 years, and I probably financed 30,000 of them. What's the purpose? What's the problem you're trying to solve? And how well do you know yourself, to the extent that you can actually put the skills around yourself to succeed? If I can get clarity on those two things from a business owner, there's a much higher likelihood that I'm going to provide equity capital or debt financing or more jet fuel for their business.
Yep, I love that. And these are things, I did a whole series on business plans. And these are things that when you're starting out or you want to grow or expand, if you already have a business, these are things that you have to really think about, because like Eric just said, he's going to base financing on that, right? So these are things that have to be laid out from the get-go. If you haven't done it already, start now, right? Start today, something you can do today, and get all of this in order. You're going to be much more successful.
And Mac, I didn't check the rating on the podcast, but I'm going to go a little off the PG script here. And if you're sitting in front of me, I've been doing this for a long time, you won't be able to bullshit me. If this is not stuff you've truly done and these are the honest answers, it's like interviewing you. We will find out eventually if this is just smoke and mirrors, or if you really have done the hard work to say, who am I? Maybe I'm not good at finance. Okay, great. Well, then what have you done to account for that in how you're building your business? Do you have a coach? Do you have a mentor? Have you taken a course? Like, what are the things you do to help you might be the world's best marketer. That in and of itself is not going to help you succeed.
No, exactly. And if you don't know
those things, you need to, and then go solve them so that you can get the jet fuel and then grow your exceptionally well thought out business.
Exactly. And if you don't know the answer, or you're unsure, or you're not sure how to make a projection of your finances, pay someone that knows what they're doing. 100%. Don't try to work your way through it, right? It's not going to work out well. It's going to be frustrating. It's going to take you way more time. Get someone that knows what they're doing to help you.
Yep. And I would say, again, having financed lots of businesses, what separates the great from the average is a real honest sense of what they're great at, what they're not great at, and then they've gone and been honest enough about that to go find the skills they need to succeed.
Yeah, exactly. I went to university to be an accountant. I loved math in high school, and this is a crazy thing, but one of my parents' best friends was an accountant, and like they had a pool and they had a house in Florida and stuff. No, I'm serious. So I was like, that is a great lifestyle. Like, I want to do that. I like math. I'm going to be an accountant. I took accounting 101 at the University of Saskatchewan and was literally, after about a month, there's no way I can do this. I cannot sit at a desk and crunch numbers. I am a people person. So I changed to a marketing and HR background, but I have a commerce degree and I still don't like finances. I took the accounting and finance classes like everybody else. I still pay someone to do my financials because it's not my strong suit. And I'm fully aware of that. And I don't want it to be a detriment to my business because I'm going to try to figure it out, or I'm going to try to do it. It's not going to help me.
100%. And I've been in finance for 30 years.
Yeah.
I too pay an accountant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I do things like, angel investing today that I didn't do before. There's tax credits involved. And it's like, rather than me, spend hours trying to figure it out, I just pay somebody to help with that.
Exactly. Time is money.
Shout out. Thanks, MMP. You do a great job.
Yeah. I also use MMP. So there we go. Not a paid advertisement, but we'll just give them our kudos here. Yeah. So obviously we've touched on why it's important to understand your finances, because you're not going to be successful if you don't. And also, if you have no financial training, what do you do? I think we just answered that, right? Get some help. Get somebody to help you with that. Pay somebody to do it. That's one of those expenses, I'll call, that I look at as an investment into your business, because time is money. Me trying to figure out something that's going to take me 2 days, or I can pay someone to do it. I can spend that time doing something that's going to make me money. Right.
Yeah, I would maybe just add, if you're the owner of the business, you have to get to some base level of understanding of the finances. Because if you're the owner, it's table stakes today. And then for sure, you might have somebody help you with cash flow forecasts and those kinds of things. But, you got to get to some base level of understanding because, again, I've seen lots of business owners, very great, either, software or business idea or whatever it is they're building. And they don't understand the fundamentals of how businesses are financed and how they, grow. And it's got them into some trouble. And I just think that you got to get to like a 100 level or a 200 level on finances if you're the owner. And then from there, you can add on, the extra kind of skills you might need.
Yeah. So can you give an example for the people listening? What are or if you have a top few, what are some things that they definitely need to understand?
Yeah, they need to understand kind of how businesses are financed. So how does debt financing work and how does equity financing work? So are you going to have another co-investor in your business, or an angel investor, or a venture fund, or private equity? And again, you don't have to, be able to describe what a safe note is for an equity investor, but you have to know the difference between equity and debt, and how to maybe arrange both, like who to talk to about debt financing and who to talk to about equity financing, and why they're different and what typically they're used to finance. And then the other thing I would say, Mackenzie, is cash flow, cash flow, cash flow.
Yes.
And when you're done thinking about cash flow, then it's cash flow, cash flow, cash flow 3 more times.
Triple it up. Yeah.
Yeah. The accountant prepared statements will tell you one thing, but literally money in your business and then money out of your business is the most important thing for a business owner, and how often you can recycle the money. It's a small thing as much as how often am I paying my bills? Like maybe I'm paying my bills every week because I want to stay on top and I've built great hygiene, but my customers aren't paying me for 45 days.
Right.
Well, what does that mean? That means you're going to have to, either figure that out because you're turning the money way more often on the way out than you are on the way in.
Yes.
And that will have an impact on your ability to grow the business. So cash, 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 and getting past, all of these terms like EBITDA and all this stuff to a pure, how many hundreds do I have coming in and how many hundreds do I have going out? That's the most important thing for the business owner to know, and have that forecasted out for a reasonable period of time.
So literally it comes down to simple math. It's not as complicated as we think it is, right?
Right.
It's budgeting, and it's figuring out, it's making a list. How much do I have to pay every month, week, day, whatever it is, and how much do I have coming in?
Yeah. And then the only thing you need to add to that is, what are the longer term, maybe less recurring things that at some point I will have to pay for? So maybe you've built a great app. Well, at some point you're going to have to actually build the next generation of the app. That's going to cost money. Maybe you have a piece of real estate and you've outgrown it. You're going to have to move into a bigger store. Maybe, I don't know what, but these things don't occur every week. Right. But you have to be thinking about how often do they reoccur? And if I need $10,000 every 4 years, that means I need $2,500 extra every year. That means I need $200 extra every month. So the cash in, cash out better show $200 a month. Otherwise, I'm not going to have $10,000 at the end of 4 years. And therefore, I won't have the money to build the next version of the app.
So it's probably smart to do, let's say, a 5-year plan or something and work your way backwards.
Well, even just to have, here's my variable costs that happen with every transaction. So every time I sell a dress, in your case, I have to pay for rent, wages, the cost of the dress, blah, blah, blah. So everything I sell, I have to pay for these variable costs. And then what are the one-ofs that I know at some point, if you could just document those to start, and how often are these maybe less recurring expenses expected to happen, then get some help on how to turn that into, okay, so what does that mean in terms of my margins and my cash flow?
Can you just touch on fixed versus variable costs? Because I think a lot of people get kind of tripped up on variables, and I think I get a lot of questions about, like, I know my fixed cost is my lease and whatever, but are my staff a variable or a fixed? Can you just touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I think the easiest way to describe it is like the Google definition, which is, for everything I sell, does my cost go up or down? So the cost of the actual, if you sell a dress for 100 and it costs you 60, if you sell 2 dresses, that cost goes up or down. Your wages, wages is easy to say, well, this is a fixed cost because I have 2 employees and, I've had those 2 employees for 3 years. But if your store doubles and you go from selling $100,000 in dresses a year to 300,000 dresses a year, let's say it triples, are you going to need more staff? Well, right. Likely. So it's anything that moves with the level of sales, if you will. That is a variable cost.
That's a great explanation, because I do get lots of questions on that. And it's not, that's a great way to put it, because it's not like you can just put something in a column and it stays there forever. Right?
No, and it's not like anything that moves with scale, up or down, would be considered variable cost. I mean, that's probably not the accountant, Society of Saskatchewan definition, but that's the banker definition.
Well, that's great, because most of the people that are listening to this aren't a banker or an accountant. So we need to provide the easiest, most logical explanations, right?
I'm still shuddering a bit from the thought of you being an accountant, so I haven't quite moved on from that.
I know. It's crazy. I tell people that, they're like, what the heck?
You don't strike me as the accountanty type.
No. I think I was just in it for the lifestyle. I don't think I was. Hey, I liked math. Like, I thought it was just a thing. You're dealing with numbers all day, right? But
totally.
No, definitely not an accountant. I also used to get in trouble for talking a lot in elementary school, that I talk too much. But here we go. It's serving me. So
yeah. And then the big fallacy for me is I don't see people enough where they've built in those things that are going to reoccur 2, 3, 4 years down the road. I see it a lot where people just go, no, I've built this thing, software in today's world, and no, I'm just going to go sell that for the next 5 years. Really? So you're never going to have to update the code for that software or build a next generation version of that app? Like, I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, exactly. And especially technology, because it's changing so rapidly, right? It's just every day there's something new.
Yeah.
So definitely if you're technology based, that's something that you're going to have to factor into your plans for sure. Okay. So if someone's just starting out, I think it's really easy to say, oh, my lease is going to be this much, and I need to put this much into inventory or something to begin with.
My Shopify costs are going to be X.
Yeah, exactly. But what are some things that maybe people don't think about in their financial plans? And I know you just touched on it there, in that like 4 years from now. Are there other things though that you see that people maybe don't consider or don't factor in when they're first starting out?
Yeah, tax is a big one. Like both, sales tax and then income tax, on the unlikely event that you start making lots of money. But I think the other thing that sometimes gets overlooked is, grants. So
yes,
SHRED, if you've ever heard the acronym SHRED, scientific research, something, people can Google it, SHRED credits. But it's basically grant money, non-dilutive grant money from the government that helps pay for kind of innovation and new ideas. There's also lots of learning and development grants that go on, and I've seen some really big companies access up to like $100,000 of learning and development grants from government agencies for the purposes of training people. So I think there's sources of non-dilutive money that'll help support a growing economy. And if you look at every government in Canada today, and I don't care whether it's the cities of Regina, Saskatoon, the province of Saskatchewan, the country of Canada, all of them are doubling down on the innovation economy. And they're moving more money into these programs to support high growth businesses. So just don't dismiss. And I know there's a lot of Google searching and surfing involved to find these opportunities, but don't dismiss the amount of opportunities to either help support the operating costs of your business or to fund innovation in your business if you're coming up with something new or creative that's, that qualifies for those programs.
Yeah, that's great. And grants, honestly, there are so many of them. And you're right, you got to Google search, because it's not like you can go to one thing and be like, here's every grant you can apply for. But there's different organizations.
Like incubators and,
Yep.
things like this that people will say, no, here's like the Coles notes of where best to look today, and they'll help you find those things.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many grants too. There's grants from private organizations too, right? You're a woman in business or you're a young entrepreneur, right? So there are lots of ways. And I love that advice because it's kind of free money, right? Like it's money that you're getting to work towards something. So if that's
I saw there was a debt fund created by some people down east for Black entrepreneurs or people of color. So there's all kinds of things that are emerging today as governments and agencies double down on that this is a major growth engine for the Canadian and Saskatchewan economies, and governments are actually, kind of pushing chips to the middle to support it, if you will.
Yeah, no, that's great. And there is an application process. We should let people know that it's not like you just put your name in and you get a grant. But that's where it also goes back to really important that you have a strong business plan and you have, where you're going, what you want to do, all of that mapped out so that you can really sell yourself for these grants, right? Because it's not just you put your name in and you get it. You really have
and I
to
don't think
prove.
anybody expects in a really crazy world where things are changing fast that you have all the answers.
Of
But
course.
people are expecting you to have an idea of where you're going. And the analogy I used to use with businesses is, well, let's say you're going on a trip from Regina to St. John's. Well, you don't know if you're going to fly the whole way, if you might take a bus for part of the way, you might drive your car, heaven forbid, you might actually have to camp in a place like Brandon for a few nights and catch your breath. But think of that, the analogy for a business. The goal is to get to Brandon and then pop your head out of the sand. What's changing in the world? What needs to be amended in my plan? What new opportunities exist? What new risks do I need to worry about? And then plan Brandon to Winnipeg. Get to Winnipeg, look around, and then plan Winnipeg to Thunder Bay, Thunder Bay to Toronto, Toronto to Ottawa. These are long journeys to build, what they call unicorn businesses in Canada today. But you got to know you're going east. And then from time to time, poke your head out of the hole, look around and adjust the plan and then get on with the next stage.
So you've got your destination or where you want to be, and then smaller steps or bites. You don't have to eat the whole elephant, right? Small bites in between, and take your temperature, right? Where are you? What's the health of your business? What can you do to get you to the next step?
So to bring this full circle, if you don't have those financial metrics well defined and you're not using great financial hygiene to look at them from time to time, when you get to Brandon, you won't know whether you want a plane ticket or a bus ticket or to hitchhike or to rent a car. You won't have a clue. And that makes it really hard to get to Winnipeg and Thunder Bay.
Yeah. And sometimes taking the time to figure it out then without planning, preparing, it's going to be detrimental.
It's going to be really hard.
Yeah, exactly. Is that your best advice for setting yourself up for financial success? What's your best advice? What can an entrepreneur that's either starting out or has a business they want to expand, what can they do today to make sure that they are going to be financially successful?
3 things, and I think we've touched on all 3. Educate yourself. Get to a 200 level as an individual business owner about how does business finance impact my the opportunity I have in front of me. 2 is have a plan, and 3 is what are the key metrics for success, and know what they are all the time. So, and it doesn't have to be like 50 ratios, but what are the 3 things that matter in my business? Maybe it's customer acquisition cost, maybe it's margin, maybe it's cash flow, maybe it's turns of cash. But know what those 3 or 4 most important metrics are and have that information all the time so you know whether you're making progress or not.
I love that advice. Is there anything that maybe you yourself, or when you see people all the time coming in with small businesses that are entrepreneurs, that is kind of a reoccurring theme that they wish they had known?
Yeah, well, I mean, it really goes back to those 3 things I just talked about. They wish they would maybe had either A, taken the time to build their own skills around finance and business, or B, got access to expertise, a coach, a mentor, hired it out, whatever. That's the universal theme, is the importance of financial knowledge in my business, whether from me or somewhere else that I've found or brought in or, got coaching or advice or mentorship on. They always underestimate the importance of that to running their business. They always go, I have this great app idea, or I have this great business idea, and I'm going to conquer the world.
Yeah.
That might in fact be true. But if you don't have this other piece, you will in fact have real challenge in conquering the world.
I love that advice. And either learn it, or if you don't know, get the help.
Yeah,
right?
Just be honest with yourself. Like, I'm good at finance. There's lots of stuff I suck at. And as I've built businesses or helped people on ventures, I've gone in and gone, I'm really good at these 2 or 3 things, but there's a whole bunch of things I'm not good at.
Yeah, exactly. Just recognizing that, right? And being able to pass it off. And sometimes it's someone within your organization that has those skills, right?
Or maybe just a friend or colleague. And I'm not all of the time do you have to actually pay for it.
Yeah.
Like, I've had people reach out and, just say, hey, Eric, you've been in banking for 30 years. Can I just bug you for 20 minutes? I got a question about finance. So of course you can. Happy to help.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Where can people find you? Are you social media? If they have a question, they maybe want to talk to you about their business?
Yeah, you can reach out I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all of the above. I have my own website, ericdillon.ca. And I've written some blogs in there about mentorship and business growth and all that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
And reach out anytime. Happy to connect or happy to help.
I love it. Thank you, Eric. I really appreciate you coming on today and giving your financial expertise to everyone. And be sure that you do reach out to Eric if you've got questions. Pop him a message through social media or his website. And I hope that he can help you along your way. So thanks, everybody, for listening.
I forgot one thing.
Yeah, of course.
Go Riders.
Go Riders. Yeah, exactly. We leave every email at Go Riders. So I love that we're going to leave the podcast on that. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening to Winning. Be sure to subscribe to get all of our new episodes. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on social media and leave a rating and review wherever you listen to Winning. To catch all of the latest from us, you can follow Winning Podcast on Instagram at winning_podcast, Facebook at Winning Podcast, and on Twitter at Winning Pod. Winning was created and is produced by me, Mackenzie Kilshaw. Music created by Summer Furby. Editing by Seth Armstrong. Special thanks to Shauna Foster for voicing our opening. And of course, a huge thank you to this episode's guest. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.